this video. This one is gonna be on Maple Story and Maple Classic that's coming. So to start off this video, the footage that I'm going to be showing and demonstrating is actually gonna be from Maple Legends here. So we've got Maple Legends, which is an old school Maple Story. Come on. Come on. Can we figure this out? Hopefully we can see this still. But yeah, we're patch 0.62. EXP rate is 2 times, Meso is 1 times, and Quest EXP is 3 times, which is awesome. It gives you an incentive to go out and do quests, which my buddy absolutely likes. So I've been playing it with a friend. Oh my god, it's God EX. We could show that right here. So, so Joey and me, we started playing Maple Story back in like it must have been around patch 20 would be my assumption. So long before fourth job even came about. So first off, we're going to be talking about Warrior and what I see happening with Warrior and stuff like that. What's this guy? Ooh, a level 70 Spearman. Nice. So this one here is Kaled. I built one of each character except for Pirate so far. Just a fighter here, and in the Guild Tomato. So what I've done is I've built one of each of the main classes outside of Pirate, and just talking about the meta and everything like that. Because we're in patch 0.6, so fourth job came out in patch 0.40. So 0.41, somewhere around there, is when fourth job came out. So we've had about 20 or so patches since fourth job came out. Now, one of the things that I like about Maple Legends is they have done a bunch of balancing as well. So just understanding like the tier lists and everything that's going on with the meta. Now I understand that Maple Classic is changing a bunch of stuff up, but this gave me an overall idea of what's going to happen and kind of where the play style of classes is going to be, and then I'm going to also extrapolate some of the data. So talking about some of the stuff that's going on. Oh, that's for the event that's going on right now. So the build that I did with my fighter, and the reason I did this is because with hero here, you use both power strike and slash blast all the way up to level 120 till you get brandish. So what most people are going to do is you are going to take improved HP recovery if you unspec this. But you go and you don't even get a point in power strike, because power strike will give you 104% damage, and you do not have any mastery at that point in time. So with 0 mastery, you're going to power strike's not going to do anything for you, so you just put in enough points to then max improved max HP, and you just use your regular attacking at that point in time. And then you go and you max pretty much the power strike, and then you get slash blast to 15, not 20. And you max out this endure. You get a slash blast to 18, sorry, and then you max out endure. And that's going to be all the skill points that you can get, because Iron Body back in this day, before they're going to be buffing it, just gives you flat weapon defense, which it doesn't scale. So 20 levels in Iron Body doesn't scale into the end game, so we don't need any points into that. But Endure is absolutely amazing, because you have a chance not to consume a healing potion upon use. So this is the typical build, is that Slash Blast is 18, you got 5, 10, 8, 20, 18. So that's kind of the build. Now, why did everyone play Hero back in the day? This is where I want to start off with, is because Hero in second job gets rage. Okay, so this is why fighters were so popular, heroes were so popular, is because prior to fourth job coming in, they actually had a a party buff. Now, the weapon attack was only 12, not 20. Okay, just to keep that in mind. So this has been buffed. Mastery level 30 in Maple Legends views the skill balance thread on the forms. So this has been buffed, but the reason being is the reason we would take something like a fighter or a hero is because if you're unfunded, what rage is basically like getting high attack work gloves, even though mine only have one weapon attack, the ones that I'm using on this character right now. But you would essentially get this rage, and rage would pop off, and it would be like you having really high attack work gloves. So you can see now that my damage is already up to 1011 from 781. Right, so it's nearly giving me 300 on my top damage, and it goes 581 down to 449. So it's just increasing the whole range. So that's what equalized it. So pages, even though they were strong in third job, they really don't shine until we get fourth job. So that's why everyone did pick hero. I've been seeing a lot of people being like, why did everyone pick hero when page was so good? But with Maple Legends, since we've been able to kind of work through the meta, right? Because it's been stable, we can see what are the meta classes and what are the best and everything like that. So that's why fighters were so popular back in the day. And the other one is going to be Dark Knight. So just talking about Dark Knights here. Yeah, so I just want to change locations while I'm talking about DK, so I could do a little bit of farming in the background with the hero, or with the fighter class. So with the hero, instead of getting a party buff in the sense of it being offensive, they get a defense. They get hyper body. Hyper body being absolutely amazing, right? So hyper body ends up giving the party, it was like 60%, and now they're hard nerfing it to 30%. So with the hard nerf, really is going to kill the class a bit. They're already not like the best of the best. So they're good, and I mean, they got really popularized by a gentleman named Tiger back in the day. I mean, if you played Maple Story back then, you kind of knew of Tiger. He was like #1 on the leaderboards for however long, right? So, yeah, in regular Maple, they ended up changing them to Dark Knights from Dragon Knights. That's it. So Dragon Knights are really strong, and they really shine when it comes to third job. Third job is where they really peak, when they start getting attacking skills, and oh my gosh, there's a lot of people here. There we go. So they peak in third job, and then they level out kind of in fourth job there. And they're not really the strongest, they're not really the weakest. They're a solid class, and that's why people pick them, because then you could be infighted into parties. And things like Pink Bean were really necessary, so I hope if they do release Pink Bean into Maple Classic, that they will nerf how much damage Pink Bean does, because right now, in the current meta, you basically need Hyper Body or to be doing washing to be able to even survive. There's a skill that Pink Bean does, even though I've never played him or fought him, personally myself. There's a skill that Pink Bean does that... Let's get my pet out. Ba-ba-bum. Where you at, boy? So there's a skill that Pink Bean does that does so much damage that you really need to do washing or that kind of stuff. Now, if you're playing regular Maple Story today, washing has been taken out of the game. But that's why it became popularized, really, is because of how much damage Pink Bean does. So that kind of thing. So Hyperbody was really used for that, and then obviously they scaled up into third job, getting all of their attacking. Now the common build for the Dragon Knights was actually to, you don't get final attack in this because it does an animation. So final attack does an animation, and so means you don't get that. So you ended up getting both boosters. You ended up not getting the Iron Body because of it didn't scale into the end game. So you have two skills that you don't get any points in. You put the minimum amount of points that you need to in them, and you end up leveling both Spear Booster and Polearm Booster. Thank you. So that means that you can use both of the Polearms and the Spear skills in the third job. So that's what DKs did, and depending on if they were mobbing or if they were bossing, they would have to then have both a good spear and a good polearm, which made them a bit more expensive if you're running them optimally in the endgame. So those were just kind of the things that DK did. Now Page ends up becoming one of the strongest fourth job skills, or fourth job classes in the entire game. So until Page got fourth job, they were probably the least popular class played out of every single class. And that's just because why play Page when they bring nothing to the table? They can only solo farm versus, you know, and depending on which skills you're maxing when, like if you've maxed the fire one, well, now you can't train in somewhere that's, you know, good for, that's weak against ice or lightning, you know, because you've only maxed the fire skill. So yeah, they really come into their own, being able to take advantage of all the different elements that they can use, as well as Holy, to be able to basically train anywhere with getting all of that extra damage. Now I will pull up here a little bit of a tier list, so we can currently see what is the current tier list for Maple Legends. And talking about this, we have okay, this is the old tier list. This is the old one for Halloween. So this is May 2020. Was when the post was initially made, I'm guessing. So this is the one for Halloween 2025, Halloween edition. So as you can see, we have Page as an A, we have the Dragon Knights as a B, and then we have the Hero and the Fighter class all the way down as F. So the only thing that the Fighter class provides after fourth job came out, the only thing that they provide is Rage, right? So final attack doesn't do anything, so we put 0 points into final attack and putting into range. So, where are we at? So just looking at this, we have Pallies as A, Dark Knights as B, and then we have the Hero all the way down as F, because really their fourth job ends up being one of the weakest fourth jobs there is. Pulling up the new meta for all of the new balance changes that happened here in post-anniversary edition, which means general discussion started May 23rd. I thought this one was for right after the Christmas event. I thought he updated this post right after the Christmas event, which puts Pallies into S tier, Bandits into S tier, right? And then we have dropped they have dropped Dragon Knights and Heroes to F tier here. So you can kind of see that and see what's going on there. I don't agree with this entire class list, though. I don't agree with that one. But that's kind of the current tier list. I think the other one's a bit better. I guess if you're talking about solo farming. Yeah, so what I see happening for Maple Classic now that I've talked about this for a little bit is axes are going to be really good for dealing with bossing. So I think axes, just because of the bleed effect, you're going to pick axes if you're going to focus on bossing with the hero. And if you're just focusing on mobbing, then you're going to want to still use your swords. So if most of what you're doing is just mobbing, but if you do want to get into bossing and all that stuff, you're going to use axes. Now remember, when we first were playing Maple Story, when we were like 9, 10, 11 years old, the 3 endgame bosses were Papulatus, Penis, Maple Story bosses. Open a new tab. And Zakum. Is there the picture of the penis? The Papulatus. I mean, we had Junior Balrog. Yeah, Junior Balrog was the first major boss. But there we go. One of the fish. The fish. Okay. Yeah. So Zakum was the main boss that we get, obviously, the Zakum helmet from. So this is one of the main bosses that everyone played to beat, as well as we had the Ludi boss here, so Papulatus. So we had him, and then we had Penis. So this was really the penis. These were really the final bosses of the game that everyone was aspiring to eventually beat. So that's kind of how the game went. Penis I beat once, Papulatus I beat several times, and Zakum I beat several times, but I never beat Pink Bean. That was one of the bosses I never beat. So Pink Bean came out quite a bit later on. So when you're talking about final game bosses, when we were talking about, when there was just third job available and stuff like that, then Rage and them were good, but Hero then dropped off, and then Hyper Body was really good. So now that they're hard nerfing Hyper Body though, and it's only 30%, what I see and extrapolating the data is that Page is still going to be on top. They're going to still be really strong because I think they missed the mark about how strong they really are right now. And then if they've nerfed second job Spearmans, I also see them kind of nerfing third and fourth job slightly. They might buff fourth job for the Dragon Knights. And then for Hero here, I see them buffing both third and fourth job because of how terrible they actually are. Yeah, sorry, so while I'm talking about fighters here and pages and all that kind of stuff, I mentioned that Axe versus Sword Mastery. I forgot to mention in pages, Sword Mastery is going to be the way you're going to go with pages now, because the hammer mastery for using maces and stuff like that, I don't think I have one on this character. So using maces stuns, and then you can't group the enemies. So if you're trying to pull the enemies together, drag them together, or whatever terminology you want to use, grouping all of the enemies like I displayed earlier, you won't be able to do that because you're stunning them. So that's going to be a huge problem when it comes to fighting in this game. I mean, depending on the map that you're in, if you're solo killing all the monsters, it's just going to be so inefficient for EXP. So I think that Mace Mastery is going to be not a good way to go at the start. Maybe it gets better in fourth job, and maybe people will find uses for it, but I think overall Sword Mastery, if you're playing a page, is the way that you have to go. So, and then we'll see with Spearman, because one gives accuracy and one gives like avoidability or something like that. So we'll see what happens with Spearman, but as far as I'm concerned, all of this is going to be getting screwed up with the point system. So we'll see what happens with warriors and everything comes out. This is just all speculation of what's going to go on. So I just wanted to quickly mention that I think blunt weapon mastery is going to absolutely suck, and everyone's going to have to use swords with pages now. So next up, we're going to be talking about bandits here, bandits and assassins. So for the class that I've picked here in Maple Legends for one of the each is I've picked to go with bandit. This one's level 47. So bandits really suck when it comes to first job, and bandits are getting a huge buff. Huge buff. So double stab is getting a buff, which is awesome. They really suck. They really suck, and that's why a lot of people play Dits. Now, this bandit was my very first character that I did make when playing Maple Legends here. So, as you can see, the build that I went for was 3 in Disorder, so we can get our Dark Sight to 18, because I just ran out of skill points. Double Stab is 20, Nibble Body is 20. The accuracy is not really needed too much, but the avoidability is one of the best defensive stats, because if you don't get hit, then you don't take any damage. So reducing damage isn't as effective as avoidability in the game, and they are giving a lot of avoidability to a bunch of different classes. So yeah, I've just gone with a regular build. I've gone strengthless so far. A lot of Dits put points into strength, that kind of stuff. But then second job, they're making Savage Blows 100% damage versus just 80. That is huge. That is a huge buff, while giving Dits crit is insane, because the Dagger Mastery is now going to provide some crit. So what the build is, and the typical build that we used here back in the day, is Savage Blows maxing is going to be better than Dagger Mastery on the double stab. You're going to do more damage. So Dits really don't come into their own till they hit around that level 40 kind of mark. Then when they hit about 40, 42, that's when they start getting really strong. You start maxing out Savage Blows, and then you max out the Dagger Mastery. After that, I'm going to max out Haste. Don't think it's Endure. Passive skill. Dagger Booster is probably what I'm going to do, then Endure, and then anything left over will go into Steel. So that's going to be the build that I'll be running, is Savage Blows first, Dagger Mastery, Haste Max, Dagger Booster, Endure, and then what's ever left over is in Steel. So because they are hard buffing the Bandit for both first and second job, I see them really buffing the Bandit when it comes to third and fourth job as well. So Bandits are really kind of, they're not fully pay to win, but until you get into level 40s, they really sucked. So buffing them in the early levels is massive. So I just got a level 66 attack, Dragon Toenail there. So that's all I've got on this character. So referring back to the tier list, you can see that Bandit and Assassin are both level, or both S rated. So they're absolutely amazing classes, and with both of them getting a buff. Now, talking and moving into Assassin here. Assassins, obviously for first job, are taking the Keen Eyes, they're taking the Lucky 7, they're taking the Nimble Body, then they're taking whatever leftover that they can put into Dark Sight. With Dark Sight being a toggle, is going to be huge. Now, I think a lot of people are missing the mark when it comes to Assassin and what they can do. So obviously with Maple Legends here, we are a bit stronger than what you're going to see, but not by much. Not by much. Because we do have access to things like squishy shoes. We do have access to some of this stuff, like they're giving us the broken glasses, that kind of stuff, right? I've got a, zombie ring from the zombie event. So all of that we're going to be a bit stronger here, right? I've got the spider earrings than we would be in Classic, but I don't think by a whole lot. Now, what I've seen, by level 40, I have seen them hitting 5k. Yes, 5k on just a single throw of Lucky 7. So that means potentially they could be hitting about 10k damage by level 40. So really what happened was, with Assassins, sky's the limits. And based on the amount of currency that you put in them, is the stronger they get. There is really no end of mesos that you can put in your Assassin. There is almost no cap, and that's what made Assassin really the strongest class in the game, and they were the strongest class in the game when I played. Their third job just made them even stronger, and then their fourth job. So they just became absolutely insane. So what Assassins were typically doing for their build is, in second job, they were getting a bit of critical strikes, and then they were moving right into haste and maxing haste first, and the reason they were doing that was because of LPQ. Just makes them faster, they max the haste, then they max the crit. And they max the claw mastery. So, yeah. Maybe they max claw mastery before crit, but somewhere around there is kind of what they do. Now with throwing, drain was kind of the skill where you kind of put points in at the end after you max all the stuff you want to max. Leftover points went into drain. Now with drain doing a more damage, it might out DPS the Lucky 7. So Assassins were huge, but they are getting rid of doing things like going dexless. So dexless Assassins are no longer the thing. Now, everyone's saying that they're gutted. They haven't been 100% gutted. What it is comparing apples to apples. So a dex-based assassin with a dex-based assassin, they are going to be doing more damage in Classic than we were doing back then. However, because of the current meta, everyone is going dexless. And with dexless, you can maximize how much luck that you get. And with doing that, with different throwing stars, different claws, all the upgrades you can get, like I said, the top damage I've seen this only on a few assassins so far, is them hitting about 5k with a crit at level 40, which is insane amounts of damage. Insane. So what they've done is, I think what they've done is they've capped the ceiling. So they've made the base assassin stronger, but they've capped the ceiling. So I don't see assassins being as dominant as what they were. So if they were the strongest class in the game, 10 out of 10 strongest class, I now see them, like what other people have saying, they're now going to be like an 8. So until we get the actual numbers and everything comes out and we're actually playing the game, it seems like Assassin's ceiling has been capped and brought down now that they have to be putting all these points into Dex. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with the throwing stars and all this other stuff, because now there's going to be 3. There's going to be like there's going to be your weapon attack, your stats, and then your physical attack. So there's actually 3 attack mods right now, and yeah, it's all going to be, we'll have to do some play testing and all that kind of stuff to see where it's at. But that's where I see Assassin, is that people just kind of lost the mark on Assassin. I think they're not talking about how strong the ceiling is for Assassins and how just amazing they are with especially single target damage. So I believe the ceiling's actually being put like a cap on the ceiling. If not, I think they're still going to be extremely strong. I just don't think they're going to be as oppressive as what they are in the current meta today. So now that I've talked about assassins and bandits and warriors, we are going to move into the hunters. So with the hunter here and the bowmans and the crossbowmans, I've done a hunter. The Hunter class is one of the longer range classes. It's a very strong and powerful class, and it really came into its own once 4th Job got released, because then when 4th Job got released, Hunters got SE, so Sharp Eyes for the extra crit. So if we're looking at bringing back up the tier list, so we can see here they are really C tier for the Bowman and then D tier for the Marksman. Now, why this is because really the Bowman has good damage, decent damage, but it's not anything like the Assassin or the Bandit in terms of, you know, full damage capabilities. But they do bring Sharp Eyes, and that's what gives them an amazing party buff. Kind of like the hero bringing in Rage, they have the party buff. So, and due to that, due to Sharp Eyes, they really become super powerful themselves. In terms of what they provide to a party, but once they're solo training, they just aren't necessarily the strongest when it comes to solo training. Now, with the Hunter here, we're going to take accuracy. You're just taking the minimum amount that you need to be able to use critical shot, because accuracy, what does Dex provide? Dex provides accuracy. So we have copious amounts of accuracy already that you don't need any points into accuracy. What I've personally taken is I've taken critical shot, I've taken 9 into focus, oh yeah, into Eye of the Amazon we did 8, and then I've taken double shot all the way up to 20. Now arrow blow, I will mention that arrow blow might be better if this is your first character and you're really mana starved, but double shot is just going to do more damage because of how crit works. Because I have a 50% crit rate, I have twice the amount of attacks going out, which lets me get twice the amount of crit. So I think Bowman are going to be really strong in terms of Maple Classic. So as a strong starter character, I'm definitely going to recommend Hunters for a lot of players. Hunters are going to be super strong. So I've just got a level, what, a 62 weapon attack. Yeah. So, and then for the skills for the 2nd job, we're taking Bowmaster. We don't take any points into final attack. Soul Arrow. Now, one mention about Soul Arrow is how Soul Arrow worked before is if you had an arrow that provided bonus attack damage, which I don't have, but if you had an arrow that provided bonus attack damage, it doesn't use it. It uses basic arrows for Soul Arrow. So you don't get any, if you're using Soul Arrow, you don't get the added bonus of attack damage on your arrows. Obviously, I'm maxing Arrow Bomb currently after maxing Bow Mastery. Then we're going to max Bow Booster, Soul Arrow, and then whatever points we have left over gets dumped into Power Knockback. It just means I can't train anywhere. Hunters in their 3rd job get the like the Scarecrow that distracts. They get a lot of fire damage. They get the pet, so they become really strong. And like I said, in 4th job they got Sharp Eyes. Now moving on to the Crossbowman. The Crossbowman gets the Iron Arrow, which isn't good. They're really good at if they're dealing with single platforms. But if they're not like a straight line platform like this, but if they don't have a strong platform, so they're really map dependent. They become, as far as I understand, better and stronger at dealing with bosses, but they just don't provide, I believe they don't have the Sharp Eyes. So that really changes them, and that changes their utility. Oh, I forgot to mention when I was talking about the pages that Masons are going to be really bad. Maybe I'll add that. I'll do a little clip and add that in. So yeah, Crossbowmen are probably the least played class that I've seen. I've seen about maybe 3 or 4 of them since I've been playing Maple Legends, so they're the least played class that I've seen. And that's just because they provide really nothing. Like, what do they provide? Really nothing when it comes to terms of a party that a hunter can't provide. They're more of just a solo form class, and they do more damage. So, like, okay, when doing bosses, you know, endgame bosses, yeah, they can do more damage, but really in what they provide. So we'll see what happens when the numbers come out, but I think that hunters are going to be probably your strongest class. So it's the exact same skill build as the hunter, as in the crossbowman, except for it's just iron arrow, except for the arrow bomb that I'm demonstrating here. Come on. This is the problem with... Now, we won't have that hitting problem. I believe they're getting rid of that. Like, there's a chance not to hit fire arrows anyways, which they did end up taking that out of Maple Story, the regular Maple Story as well. The whacking. So, we've already talked about 6 minutes on these guys. Yeah, I'll go make that clip for the fighters. So I'll pop that in there. But yeah, I think Bowman are going to be an absolutely strong. Sharp Eyes is always needed for the endgame party content. So hunters are going to be super strong. I'm not quite sold on crossbowmen unless they get major buffs for 3rd and 4th job, which we haven't seen. We've only seen 1st and 2nd. Unless they get major buffs, I'm really concerned crossbowmen are going to fall behind quite a bit, and they're going to be like the least played class. And bowmen in general are a low played class, but then most people play hunters anyways. Like I said, since I've been playing Maple Legends for the last like 4 months, I've seen about 3 or 4 crossbowmen in that entire time, and one of them is Joey. So not the best look there. Yeah. Last but certainly not least, we have the mages. Mages were absolutely and are absolutely busted when it comes to regular Maple Story. And I just found this hero. So, talking about hero being a weaker class, they still provide the rage and stuff like that. So, we have the 3 Maple classes. We have the Fire Poison Mage, we have the Ice Lightning, and we have the Bishop Cleric, the heal slut themselves, the Genesis, the Absolute Destroyer. We'll start with Fire Poison, Ice Lightning Mages, and then we'll move into Clerics. So bringing up the tier list here again, we're just going to show this tier list off. I do disagree with some of it. We do have Ice Lightning and Fire Poison in D tier here, and then we have the Bishop here in B tier. I do disagree with this. I believe the Bishop is all the way up in S tier. The Bishop and the Assassin were the kings of Maple Story back in regular Maple Story, and now in Maple Legends, Bishops are just as strong. I think they're S tier. Like, they really come into their own when you get into 3rd job and stuff like that. Talking about Ice Lightning and Fire Poison, Ice Lightning are still really strong. My friend Joey, that's what he mains, is the Ice Lightning main, and he just absolutely love it. They provide a lot of utility. They are getting nerfed, not in damage, but in utility with 2nd job. Their 2nd job skill, the Lightning Strike, is getting nerfed. So it provides a stun. So just like talking about the blunt weapons for paladins, providing that stun means when you're pulling enemies together, you're going to be just absolutely hating it because enemies are getting stunned, which means pulls are slower, which means grouping enemies are slower, which means then using your lightning ability is being nerfed. So lightning having the nerf is very bad for Ice Lightning Mages. We're just moving to the left here. We'll go do some fighting while I talk about these guys. So, the common build right now is, and apparently they're changing this because you have to get this sooner, so what we use is actually starts in first job, so this happens with all the mages, is we take the 3 snails and you take recovery. Okay, so the average damage for the 3 snails at level 8, 9, and 10 is going to do more damage than Energy Bolt 1. So they might be changing it that you get your job advancement, first job advancement at level 10 rather than level 8 for mages, but that's still just speculation. We'll have to see what happens. But you take the 3 snails, this is how it was done. You put it MP improved MP recovery until you can do improved max MP increase. You max this one out, then you come back, max the magic claw, max the magic guard, and then max the improved MP recovery, then the magic guard. So that's, and then magic armor had 0 effect into the late game. So that's how it was done, because 1 energy bolt early game will do about 20 or 15 to 60 damage, and so on average your 3 snails would actually do 40 damage, so it kind of averages out to being a bit more damage. It's just very slow. Mages go from being the worst class in the game to the absolute goated best class in the game, especially when you hit second job. They become extremely strong. An unfunded mage is going to be stronger than an unfunded assassin. So mages are extremely strong, and having mastery built into the magic skills themselves makes Magic Claw absolutely insane. So both Ice Lightning and Fire Poison are getting a nerf. In Fire Poison's third job is getting a nerf, with them changing the mechanic for how poison works. Poison used to do a percentage of the enemy's HP, now it just does flat damage, but it does kill. So it's just going to change that they can't go into ultimate endgame maps that are like level, 10, 20 levels above them and just kill. It means that they're going to have to actually train at enemies more around their level. So I do believe that it does hurt their endgame scaling. And now, there is actually a niche when it comes to Fire Poison mages. They are getting a huge buff when it comes to second job. So second job, having the Fire Arrow getting buffed is massive. As far as I understand, Ice Lightnings does beat out Fire Poison mages in damage kind of across the board when it comes to fourth job. But when it comes to third job, Fire Poisons were better, and then Ice Lightnings were better, right? There was always that debate, and that's what made the Schoolmate story really fun, because there was always that debate of, Fire Poison versus Ice Lightning and stuff like that. So Ice Lightning are getting a bit of a, they're getting a huge nerf when it comes to their second job potential, but the stun's fine. It just means that grouping and mobbing is going to be much slower, so they've slowed that down. When it comes to overall damage numbers, they're still right there. They're still great. So, moving into your second job, obviously Ice Lightning's max lightning first, right? You put a point to teleport, you max lightning, then you max something like MP Eater, stuff like that. So before you even use the cold beam, because you still have Magic Claw. So Magic Claw you use for single target, and then your lightning you use for multi-target. And that's kind of the current build. With Fire Poison mages, it's the same. You put teleport first, then you put everything into Fire Arrow, with Fire Arrow being buffed. It is a huge buff for second job, so we can only extrapolate what's going to go on from what they've done for buffs and nerfs for first and second job. So I see them buffing Bandit even though Bandit is extremely strong. Maybe they'll come out and nerf 3rd, 4th job Bandit, but with Fire Poison, I see them getting a buff through 2nd, 3rd, and 4th job. Probably maybe a nerf through 3rd job, we'll see, and then a buff in 4th job is kind of what I anticipate there. So that's, if I do play Maple Classic, that's what I'm going to be running. It's probably a Fire Poison Mage. Now, here in Maple Legends, they do actually have their own niche, and that niche is power leveling characters. So mules and stuff like that is what Fire Poison Mages are currently being used for. So they actually still have a use in Maple Legends versus Ice Lightnings don't really fill a niche. And since Fire Poisons fill a niche, they're much higher. They have a much higher play rate. Now, talking about play rate and with the meta and stuff like that, still 90% of all magicians become clerics, become bishops. 90%. I would say then 6% become fire poison, and the last like 4% become ice lightning. It might be a bit more skewed towards fire poison than it is ice lightning, but that's just what I've seen playing for the last 4. Like, I had a party today doing LPQ, and it was 4 clerics. We had 4 or 5 clerics and an assassin. Everyone plays cleric because it is such a powerful, powerful class. But they are hard nerfing it coming into Maple Classic. Heal here, for instance, has a 300% recovery. They're turning it to 100% recovery, meaning that 3 casts of heal is 1 cast of heal currently. That is huge. You are doing 1/3 the amount of damage to undead, which is where they trained. Now, they are changing Holy Arrow to be like Fire Arrow, where they're shooting it at 3 times. This sucks. This absolutely sucks because your dump skill for 2nd job was Holy Arrow. You don't put any points in a Holy Arrow. I think you end up getting around 11 or 14 into Holy Arrow. I did have a cleric in regular Maple Story when... Oh, I made one when the Monster Park and everything first came out and you were playing the Carnival PQ. So I did make a cleric to 3rd job. I didn't get him to 4th job. And so that's what I remember. Holy Arrow was like my dump stat, and I just put like, I think it was 11 points is what I had left over that you put into it, and you just use Magic Claw all the way up to 3rd job until you get Shining Ray. So they are hard nerfing cleric. Hard nerfing, because they're also nerfing MP Eater. Rather than being like 30% success rate, it's got a 5-second. So MP Eater might be the new dump skill. It's hard to say, and people might be maxing Holy Arrow now, but then you've got to have a dump skill somewhere where you don't max it out, and that's probably going to be the new MP Eater, which is kind of unfortunate, because even though it is only 5 seconds, it has a 5-second delay, it still reduces the amount of potions that you're going to need. They're buffing Invincible though. So that's a cool thing that they're doing, is they are buffing Invincible, but with heal taking such a hard nerf, and clerics overall taking such a hard nerf, and being absolutely gutted, they want heal to be for healing your character now, rather than using as a damage skill and going and fighting undead like I was just showing there. But if I'm extrapolating through 3rd and 4th job, is they're going to be nerfing 3rd job and nerfing 4th job of the bishop. So I think that clerics are going to be not dead in the water, but they're going to be really gutted into, instead of being an active role where you can go out in a party and still contribute to the party, you're basically just like a support. You've gone from being like this offensive mage with like Genesis and having this amazing 4th job to, I think they're going to be playing a backpedal role as just more of a support class, which is their identity, but it kills their... I think it just totally kills the class in a way. We'll see. We'll see if they... That's extrapolating. That's my understanding of where they're probably gonna go after just seeing the hard nerfs to second job with the Holy Magic Basics. So I'm guessing they're going to nerf third and fourth job, and I'm guessing they're gonna cull the class, because like I said, this B rating I think is wrong. I think they're way up here in S rating. They are so popular, they are so strong, everyone plays them. Everyone plays them. Like I said, they're just so popular because of how powerful of a class. The two top played classes in Maple Legends are assassins and bishops. Like, there are alliances that are just bishops, because that's how many there are here. Like you can see, I believe Deco is something like a bishop, right? We have a lot of assassins, and bishops are a lot of the players that we have, as well as we have some spearmen. So yeah, next we're gonna move on to pirates. So unfortunately, I don't have a pirate to demonstrate. I never built one. I was thinking of making a Corsair. Corsairs are F tier, and then Buccaneers they have as A tier here. Buccaneers are a slower class, but a stronger class, and I don't know if they're going to be released in Maple Classic or not. I haven't seen anything about them actually being released. If they are released, Buccaneers are quite a strong class. They will be a really strong early game class. They will be extremely strong when it comes into being your first character. So when talking about first characters, bandits have got such a massive buff to them. The crit buff to bandits is huge. I don't think you can underestimate that. Bandits are going to be probably the top class in the game. I think pages are going to be relatively left alone, which makes them one of the top classes in the game. I think they're nerfing the ceiling for assassin. I think Buccaneer is going to stay as A rank and be absolutely strong. So if that's what you want to play, like for starting classes, I would definitely do something along the lines of Page, Buccaneer, Bowman here, Fire Poison. Those are kind of my ideas. Oh, and then Bandit. Bandit will be a decent one. You just need a decent claw, or sorry, dagger. And then Bandits will also be a good starting class as well. So that's what I see. Fighters always a good starting class just because of rage. Because like I stated earlier, you're going to need that. But when talking about Corsairs, it's just because of how the ship was initially made when dealing with... When they first came out, they were strong. They were like second. They have incredible damage, let me put it that way. It's just all in all, when you talk about solo killing, when you talk about partying, all that kind of stuff, they just didn't, everywhere they were just kind of lacking. They didn't really excel in one place or another, and the ship having such a huge cooldown and your damage really being tied to the boat, just that's what puts them in the F tier. When they're on the boat, they're like a solid A tier, right? But they're not bringing everything to the party, so they're a much faster class, where the Buccaneer was a much slower class, but the Buccaneer just hits really, really hard. So with Sharp Eyes being prevalent, with the Hunter, they're never going to drop below C tier, you know, depending on what, if you're talking about solo play, yeah, C tier, but party play, they're up at like A, B tier, right? So overall, I do see healers, your bishops and stuff like that dropping. They might absolutely be gutted. Ice Lightning, they're about the same. They're always gonna, I think they're gonna fill that D tier niche, even if they get buffs in damage. At most, they're going to move up to about C tier. Fire Poison, they're getting both a buff and a nerf, so we'll see what happens with them. And then Dark Knights are being hit so hard with Hyper Body only being 30% rather than 60. So they're absolutely going to drop down, and I think they're going to be around D tier, to be honest with you. Unless their fourth job gets some buffs, the Dragon Knights I see being D tier. So yeah, just wanted to throw my thoughts in there. I've been listening to a lot of different people and a lot of different people's opinions about things and going over the numbers and stuff like that. I will put a description of another YouTuber that I've really enjoyed his content. I just think that a few points were missed. I wasn't going to make this kind of video because it's going to get like 5 people watching it. But overall, there was a few things missed with Assassin. I think the ceiling is going to be capped on that. I think Assassin was my big one. Assassin and healers were the big one that I think are being absolutely gutted. Like, people are like, oh, healers aren't so bad. No, it's because now you're going to have to max the Holy Arrow rather than it being just a dump skill. You're going to have to max Holy Arrow, and your dump skill is probably going to be MP Eater. Just that 200, losing 200% on a skill just feels bad, feels horrible. I understand why they're doing it. It's because, like, okay, now you can't train with it, but it's like, now we're talking about order of maxing. Okay, so you're going to want to max Holy Arrow because it's going to do more damage than Magic Claw, which means you're not being able to put points into heal, teleport, MP Eater. You're not going to be getting Bless or Invincible for the rest of your party. Like, what are you maxing? What's going to be the max order and stuff like that? It just feels clunky now. Maybe once you hit third job, it's going to all even out. But then if they're nerfing heal so hard, are they going to be nerfing other bishop stuff? So those were the two things, was the bishop and the assassin. I think that people just kind of missed the mark on there, being like, oh, hey, like, assassin's not actually gutted how the new math works. They're actually stronger than they were before. And it's like, okay, but I think it's the ceiling of them they might be looking at nerfing. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, Crossbowman, not going to necessarily be my ranked number 1 for starting character because Fire Poisons are such good mules. That's one of the ones that I've been leaning towards playing as my first character. That I would do Page over Fighter because, like I said, I did Fighter here in Maple Legends just because Fighter does have that rage, which allows me to equalize my damage a bit to those people that are more funded than me. I can catch up a bit more with having the buff. So I do think Bowman will probably be your one of the strongest starters. Bandits are going to be really good, strong starter. Any class you could start with, really. It's just what's going to be the top class and what's going to be the best and most optimal. But yeah, I'm excited. Depending on the EXP ratios and stuff like that. I know a lot of people have been asking for a really slow grind, like how it was, but I think a lot of the people that played are millennials, and we're now in like our 30s, even up towards 40s, and we just don't have time for, grind 6 hours to gain a level. I think a lot of people will quit playing if that's the case. So it can't be so fast like it is nowadays. Last time I played actual global Maple Story, it's 8 hours and you're level 120. I think it takes, on average, me starting a new character, like brand new, like zero funding at all, it's 8 to 10 hours to get to level 120. So yeah, just thought I would throw my 2 cents into the characters and how they go. So I don't even know if pirates are going to be released, but Corsairs will need some major buffs to bring them out of the F tier.